Greetings to our teacher, Sir Serge. Good day, sir. So this is my discussion about what I have understood from the given PowerPoint presentations. Okay, so that was all about designing video games, or how are we going to design a video game or any software. So, so since the subject human-computer interaction points about how the user interacts with the software. Subject was all about designing useful software and games. This is the ongoing process of improvement that technologies tend to be used for. So a technology student like us must be aware that in this vast field of science, analysis and critical thinking were the most powerful skills in order to succeed. But one must also consider the fact that we tech guys, game or software website developers, should have the ability to touch the lives of others, especially when these other people uses our systems. So in this whole period of discussion, we will unfold the knowledge that we can get from human computer interaction, specifically software and game designing. So for successful user interface design and user experience, right? So first things first, what are the things that we should consider in designing a software, or shall we focus on video games? How are we going to design a successful game? So like Mobile Legends, or like any other famous games today. So well, first, a game must be enjoyable, challenging without being too difficult. So that's how, or that's a simple thing that a game developer must consider. So as an example from the slides, the research featured in there. So the title of the research was Designing Digital Games for Rural Children. So technically the study is focused on how are we going to design a video game that a rural child, or shall we say partly remote area children, can relate to or enjoy on playing with. So this is a challenge because some of the kids in these areas are not computer or oriented, so we can have lots of challenge in doing or designing a video game for them. The conclusion of the research says that a game must be enjoyable, challenging, without being too difficult. So there are games that were featured or used for the research or being studied. So these are the Crocodile Rescue, where there are lots of stationary crocodiles in higher levels. So rural players did not find it easy to navigate the maze, the train track game. So they find it, or based on the findings, they found out that these games were too difficult to play with the or by the rural kids. So, and also to a game called Dancer, they find it really hard, or the gameplay was frustrating. So, moreover, the conclusion stated that in increasing a game's difficulty by raising the number of obstacles or enemies is inconsistent with how the difficulty in traditional games is scaled up. In hindsight, we should have designed the advanced levels to be harder by incorporating more sub goals into them instead. So technically, as what I have understood, a game must have these elements, or the creator must consider these things in order for the video game to be more interesting. Here are the things. So this is designing the gameplay. First, determine your goals. What are you trying to do with this game? What story are you trying to tell? So what do you want your players to feel at the end? So that's technically determining the goals. Next, a game must also have or the game must also determine your audience. So different audiences are more likely to play in different ways. So they are also more likely to prefer different types of games and have different standards for content. So remember, it's fine to want to make a game for a very specific audience, but it will limit the profits that you make. So be realistic. So that's it. Next, number 3. So design for different devices. So before you get very fair into the process, you need to consider what kind of devices you want your game to be on. So mobile platforms are quickly becoming a major player, but PC and consoles are still. So the programming involved and especially the interface and controls will change drastically with your platform. So it's important to understand what you're going to be putting the game on. So different platforms, different programming skills or programming types that you are going to use. You have to determine or design. As a game creator, you have to be more knowledgeable and can be able to create your game in other platforms too. Okay, so number 4, consider your genre. Okay, so there are lots of genre for video games also. So while genres are not completely important, the genre of your game will determine some parts of how it's designed. So is it an FPS, platformer, an RPG, a social game? There are very few aspects of design that are not influenced by the genre. Of course, you can say forget genres and just make whatever you want, but this is more difficult to market and you will be forced to be more creative and original. Not the easiest way to break into the design world. Number 5, determine player agency options. So basically a game must have in order for it to be exciting, let's say for example a game with an RPG, or the user is or has an avatar or a character on the game, he or she has to have options. And then number 6, outline your challenges. So the serious design work begins next. You need to create your gameplay loop. This is an outline of how your game works. So it usually ends with your player's goal and details the challenges they'll have and the goals they'll need to meet. So an example would be the first Mario game. So as we can see in the screen, so the Super Mario. So we are all familiar with Super Mario. So where the loop would look like run, avoid obstacles, then hit the flagpole. So basically the gameplay of the Super Mario, the first Mario game, was like this, like uh, running, and then next thing you will do is avoid obstacles and then hit the flagpole in order to move forward on the next level. So on the next level you will need to run again, avoid obstacles, then hit flagpole, and then again run, avoid obstacles, then hit the flagpole. So it's kind of looping gameplay. So you need to design or outline the game challenges. Next, create the incentives for your player. So no matter what kind of game you're making, you need to give your player a good reason to want to achieve the goals and progress through the whole game. So it is very pointless to have a video game or game created that uh, a user or me as a user, when I hit level 1 and there's no more levels ahead. So as a game developer, you have to set level by level challenges in order for the user to be more excited in playing the game. Next, number 8, balance difficulty with playability. So as what I have mentioned earlier, a game must be not too difficult, but never too easy to play with, because when the user or the player will assess your game as easy as eating banana, they will likely to be bored and, you know, find another game and disregard what you have created. So balance difficulty with playability. So you also need to make sure that the game isn't too hard. So, or at least not so hard that it makes playing the game impossible or nearly impossible. So your game should pose some challenge, but not so much that it's going to induce a lot of rage to quit. So this usually requires some testing, but that's okay. That's what betas are for. So you have to test the game, your created game. And other than these things, game designers must also design the tutorial, design the world. So the world that is the environments in which your player will play the game. So design the mechanics also. These are the internal rules of the game. Next, design your levels. So that's also must the game developer must consider. So design the content. So you'll need to design all the content, like the items that can be interacted with, and the characters themselves, the environmental items, etc. So design the interface. That's a very important thing. So, and design the controls, very important also. And then next, we have to measure user experience. So in this part of the game development aspect, we will assess, or we can assess, if our game or our video game that is created is effective. So what is usability? So the extent to which a product can be used by specified users to achieve specific goals with effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction in a specified context of use. So usability is an approach to product development that incorporates direct user feedback throughout the development cycle in order to reduce cost and create products and tools that meet user needs. So also, usability really just means making sure that something works well. Okay? So that's that a person of average or even below average ability and experience can use the thing. So technically everyone can have the ability to use your game or your software. So that's usability. Next, usability versus user experience. So usability is an ability, so as what I have mentioned, ability of the user to use the thing to carry out the task successfully. So that's the time when you can say that your software or your game is usable, or a thing or a technology is usable when someone or somebody can use it successfully, perform tasks successfully. Next, what is user experience? So this individual's entire interaction with the thing, as well as thoughts, feelings, perceptions that result from that interaction. So we are interested in user experience. So a game developer must also consider, or must really have to consider these things from the user, or from the people who use your product, their thoughts, their feelings, and perceptions. All right, so that's all for my discussion. So thank you so much, sir, and a good day.